All right, hello everybody. Second episode of Blind Fly Tie. Today we are going to do our best to tie a very simple beetle. So again, the purpose of this channel is I am blind and I am just trying to show people that someone who's blind is able to tie flies. They're not going to come out the prettiest or the best, but with practice they come out fishable and they look more or less fine. So today, like I said, I'm going to do my best to show you exactly how I tie a very simple beetle. What we're going to be using is deer body, very simple brown deer body, green thread, size 6 or 8, one of those two, and just a nice hackle, bag of hackle. Now, people also ask me how do I know what stuff I'm using. It's because everything I have is labeled just like this hackle, just like my thread. Everything has a label printed on it, whether it came that way or I typed it out with my label maker and stuck it on with the little sticker. Um, and that's that. My hooks are obviously all just organized as well. So size 16 hook, that's what we got going on here. And we're gonna start going into tying up this fly. So as I've said in my previous video, what I tend to do is I'm right-handed. So the hook, the eye of the hook to my right, my bobbin with my actual thread is in my right hand. And what I do with this with my left hand is take this extra thread and I use it as a bit of a lead to help me place down, just like that, to help me place down my thread base. Now we're not going to go all the way to the eye of this hook. There's also a jig hook, by the way. A jig hook basically means it kind of has that down divot where the eye is right there, so you can kind of flip the hook into the fish's mouth, hopefully. We're going to go about halfway ish. So I'm going to try to lay down a loop, use that thread to try to slide that thread that I just put down, trying to slide it to the next thread. Right hand, do a little loop, slide that thread up, doing our best to attempt to make touching wraps. All the way till we get to just about the bend of the hook. Maybe one more wrap. And like I said before, we might get some clumping. Not much you can do about it. As of now, anyway. And I'm just about there. So now with this extra thread I have hanging off kind of like a little tail, grab my scissors, hold that thread straight up in the air, open my scissors, put the thread in between the blades. Don't drop the thread. Slide the scissors down to the hook, give it a quick little snip, and pray that I don't cut any extra thread we actually need. So currently, I'm just going to check with my fingers. I might have pulled down a little lower than half, but honestly, that's not the worst. I just don't want it to be all the way up by the eye of the hook. Now we're going to take our deer body. What I'm trying to do here is we're trying to get a thickness that's maybe about, I don't know, a quarter-ish of a pencil. And what we're going to do, it's all by feel in this case. I'm just going to try to clump some hair just like that, clump it, do my best to hold it together, hold it, pinch it, do all those things. Grab my scissors, snip, snip. Just like the thread, open the scissors, slide it down, give it a snip to collect my fur. So currently what we have is now going towards my palm are the little spiky tips of the tail of the fur. Going towards the eye of the hook, the part that we just cut, the little butt ends of this deer fur. We're not stacking this fur, but we will use our little finger to try to flick away all the little dander and stuff like that that's under the deer fur. So how we're going to put this on, we're going to allow this fur to spin onto the hook, which basically means as we tie it in, it's going to cover the hook completely. We're not trying to, for example, catch it just like that and lay it on top. That's for things like streamers and stuff like that. We're trying our best to allow it to spin on this hook. We also want to make sure we do our best to not have the fur cover the hook entirely. I started my thread base further down the hook for a reason, because I'm trying to catch the fur down here near that bottom little area. So I'm going to pinch my fingers together, do everything I can to make sure I catch this fur, tie this fur down correctly. So a little pinch loop right where my fingers are, there's this hole. I'm going to put the bobkin tip with the thread in that hole, trail my finger down, come around and pull a little backwards to try to first make a gentle pinch loop. Do that again. Number 2, do that again. Number 3, oops, I almost cut it on the tip of the hook. Oh, scary, scary. 4, 5, one more, 6. And there we are. I had some fur kind of stuck in between my fingertips, but hey, no big deal. Now to further secure that I have this fur down, I'm just going to do a few more kind of little open-ish spiral wraps, trying to cover that fur. And then I'm also going to try to collect some of that tail fur right at the back, come up right underneath it, creating like a little stopper in the back, and do another one quick wrap. Really doing my best to secure that little clump of fur down. So currently we have this going for us. Next, what we're going to do is I'm going to take my thread, start wrapping it little by little, not necessarily touching wraps as my goal, but little by little to come up just a little bit past where the fur currently is. Boom. That part there is how high we're going to have this eventually end up going. I'm also just letting it settle there for now because I will be wrapping it backwards just a little bit. So next we're going to have our peacock hurl. I had a piece of peacock hurl here. It is now gone. It has been found. Peacock hurl. Right here. I'm told it's teal color. Whatever color it is, it is. So in my left hand, for the blind people, it's nice and thick stem. To the right hand, as we follow it through, kind of trail that feather, it gets thinner and thinner. It's the tip of the feather. I'll call this the thick part, we'll just call it the stem. That's where it comes off the body of this peacock. blah, 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 blah. We're going to tie this peacock curl in, tip towards the eye. Similar thing, kind of a little pinch loop. 1, 2, 3. There's a little bit in the front. 1 right in front of it. Let it kind of stay back again. Another boom. Boom, boom. Another 2 wraps. This peacock curl is going to be the body, right? So I'm going to do a couple of quick wraps again to kind of bring this peacock curl back towards, I guess we'll call it the butt of this beetle. And then another 1 or 2 wraps forward, kind of loose open spirals. What we're going to do now is hold this peacock curl straight up in the air. This is one of those moments where I will be spinning the rotary vise, doing my best to keep everything still and allow the machine to do the work. Because if I try to wrap it by hand, boy oh boy will that take forever. So we're going to start our wrapping, and right there, kind of the tip of the hook. So as I come like this, the tip of the hook is showing up. I kind of move it out the way for a quick second, try to come back to the midline, because peacock curl is kind of thin. It is thread-like in its ways, so it is very possible to completely snip this peacock curl by accident on the hook. So I did about 4. I'll do another 4 or 5 little wraps. I'll do a 6th right there. Trying to make a nice little body, underbelly of this beetle. Now with my right hand, I'm going to hold this peacock curl. And with my left hand, I'm going to take my bobbin thread and just lay 1 and lay down 2 wraps currently right on top of it. Now switch hands. Peacock curl in my left hand, thread in my right hand. Do a securing kind of wrap, just 1 right in front of it, so that we're kind of stuck with that. I can let it go. It's not going to go anywhere. And what I'm going to do is make a little clinch knot just to kind of secure it in place before I cut the excess. So left hand, I'm going to hold my thread, lay the thread on top of the line of thread coming from the hook. So you're making this little music note, but a nice big loop, because I'm trying to also make sure I get it over this peacock curl, right? So there's the peacock curl right there. Make a nice big loop. I'm going to try finding that peacock curl again. I want to make sure I get it through. But it kind of dropped. Where is that damn thing? Problems, you know, blind problems. Oh no, I pulled fur out. Oh, I'm holding it. Dumbass. Okay. See, blind problems. Didn't even realize I was holding the peacock curl in my own hand the entire time. Now that I cinch that down with a quick little clinch knot, grab my scissors, hold it straight up in the air, open the scissors, slide it down, quick snip. Peacock curl is very thread-like, thin thread-like, so if you wanted to, honestly, you can just give it a quick yank. Now there's still a little bit of excess. That's the tip of the peacock curl right there. I'm also just going to try and give it a quick little snip as well, but I'm going to toss that. So currently, we're in this stage. Now comes some of the trickiness because I am trying to not pull off as much fur as possible. I'm going to collect all this fur that's right here, collect it, and pull it over the peacock curl up towards the eye of the hook. I'll do my best to feel as many strands as I possibly can and just pull it over, completely cover the top layer of the peacock curl while also trying to fan out some of the fur over the peacock curl, kind of making like the upper shell casing of this beetle snug enough, but still trying to not really pull out fur, which I'm doing my best, but it's possible. So now I did that. Again, we're going to come up and do a couple of loose pinch loops, trying to secure that thread and that fur right down. I did 3 loose pinch loops. Give it a gentle tug because my thread is a little fragile. And this is creating the neck of this beetle right now. And so currently we have that down. Most people would also try to add legs or something on this beetle, but I'm not going to do that. Now, one more time though, I'm going to add another little clinch knot, but this time I'm going to add it near, like physically on the hook. Try to come underneath that fur, that extra excess fur coming off the tip. Lock that in place right there. Just because I don't want to cut the thread by accident, because I'm cutting off this excess here. Now, before I really go any further with this, I'm not going to do this right now, but what I would recommend you do is there's all this excess here. There is nothing wrong with grabbing a size 20, size 22, size 24 hook and using this to continue making smaller and smaller beetles. I'm just going to cut it and toss it because I don't really want to make an hour-long video of making a beetle. So now that I have that done, nice little simple clinch knot, I'm going to use the eye of the hook to kind of guide me to cutting off just enough fur to create the head of this beetle. I'm going to collect that fur, open my scissors, give it a snip. And right now, you should see a clear separation of shell to the neck to what would be considered the head of this beetle. Now we're going to whip finish this. Whip finisher in my right hand, thread in my left hand. I'd whip finish with 2 hands just because it's easier. I'm going to catch the thread with the whip finisher, wrap it around that little bump, pin my thumb and the thread directly next to each other where the neck is. That's what I'm aiming for. Making my right triangle. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 wraps. Bring my tool forward, loosen it, let it knot. Done. I kind of tied my head, but you know, it's about being fishable, not about being perfect. I'm not selling these, so I don't. Perfectionist sense, I do care. Usability sense, because they're going to get lost, broken, disappear in the grass, the water, the this, that. I'm not going to worry about it being super perfect. So I'm going to cut this now. Slide the scissors to the hook, quick little snip. Beetle is currently done. We're still going to use UV resin it, but this is currently what we're working with. Again, some basic brown deer fur, size 16 hook, dark green thread, and peacock hurl to kind of make that underbelly. And this is what we're looking at right now. So now I'm going to UV resin it really quickly, just to do everything I can to secure that little knot that was made with the whip finish tool. And yes, with my fingers, I'm going to get UV resin on them. There's not much you can do when you live in the world by touch. So I'm going to blast it with some UV resin. I'm going to do a quick pause. I'm actually going to take a needle as well, just to kind of make sure I don't UV resin the eye of the hook shut. I'm going to put a needle right in there and just hold it. UV resin. My beetle. And it should be pretty okay by now, right? And that's exactly why I did that. I felt the hook. The hook got a little stuck. And this is our final product. The best beetle in the world? No. But again, a blind person is able to tie something like a size 16 beetle, because it starts introducing some concepts like pulling that fur over or pulling some kind of material over with the intent of making shell casings for things like grasshoppers or just other various flies you might make. But thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe, add any comments you'd like to add. Any tips and tricks would be greatly appreciated that you might think would work best for someone who is blind or just in general. But thanks again, like, comment, subscribe, blind fly tie, and we'll move on to making something, again, a little easier.